Hey everybody, Matt here. Thanks for stopping by and welcome to Imagine Then Make. If you watched my last video, you saw how I added 3 concrete blocks to the Black & Decker Workmate to make it a little bit more stable, actually a lot more stable. But adding the concrete blocks doesn't do anything about this kind of motion in these pivot points. Let me show you next how I'm kind of attacking that problem. So in my last video you saw me add some concrete blocks to the Workmate, and that makes it a lot more stable. It doesn't slide around on the feet very much. It really kind of sits still. But these concrete blocks don't do anything for this kind of motion here. And hopefully you can see that on the camera. The motion is coming from the pivot points in the linkage that's used when you fold the Workmate up. So to try and address and get rid of this motion, I literally just threw together 3 scrap pieces of 2x4 block. And the idea was to try and make a wedge that fits in here to try and reduce the amount of motion. So again, this is the amount of motion without the wedge installed. And again, this is just kind of a proof of concept type prototype. Just trying to get a feel for whether or not this idea has sort of any merit at all. Okay, so that's in there pretty good. It's touching here, here, and the middle block is hitting this lower member. So now if I try and move, there's probably some, but I don't feel, it feels a lot less than it did when the wedge wasn't there. So there's the motion without the wedge. And there's the motion with the wedge. So it feels a lot less with the wedge. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clamp in this piece of steel that you saw me cut in the previous video. I'll try and cut another piece off with the hacksaw, and we'll see how much motion there is down here. Alright, so I'm not really sure how much you could see on the video, but to me it felt like the whole Workmate was more secure, a lot less motion with the wedge installed, so that only makes sense, right? So if I was to continue with this, I would make smoother fitting wedges, one for each side, and just have the crude prototype jammed into this one side at the moment. So with some nicer fitting wedges, working with the concrete blocks, which add a lot more stability to the Workmate, I believe those 2 things working together makes my decades-old Black & Decker Workmate feel a lot more stable.